Good morning, church. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Woo! How many of you are happy to be in the house of the Lord today? All three of you. Oh my God, I just broke my case. So, how's it going, everybody? How's everybody doing? Man, I am excited today. Watching, I was just telling Pastor, watching Jeremy up here was like watching Pastor. If you've ever had like an interaction with him when he's like going in on nuggets, Pastor will drop the nugget and then walk away. And Jeremy came in, and we're naked. And it was literally like watching the last like 11 years of my life over and over, every conversation I've ever had with Pastor. It was great. All right. So my name is Mike. For those of you that don't know, hello, I'm from Piscataway for right now. No, I'm just kidding. I love it over there. I hope I stay there. I really feel like God is going to do something with this word this morning, which is good, because if he wasn't going to do something with it, I would have nothing to say. So our series right now is called Crossing Over. We've had some amazing messages. Pastor Pablo started us off incredible. Then Amaryllis just took it to town with Ruth. And then Pastor Marquez, like a literal crossover. I watched Lazaro like crossing people over. He crossed himself out of his shoes. It was great. But it was incredible. And I feel like, there have been a few different crossing overs that have happened this week. Like I know some people that crossed over from fiance to husband and wife this week, right? Hey, Jenny and Chris, come on. I also crossed over into adulthood this week. That's right. I've had a child for the last 6 years, almost 6 years, and somehow I've crossed over into adulthood this week. This week was the first time ever I hosted Thanksgiving at my house. Right. That's a real deal. My mom, my grandma, my brother, my uncle and aunt, my cousins, they all showed up. It was so much work. But I got to watch football, so it made it all better, right? So I crossed over into adulthood this week, and it felt really good. I feel like there are a lot of different areas that we could be crossing over, right? From childhood into adulthood, from immaturity to maturity, from fiance to spouse. Like there are so many different areas, but one area that we have the hardest time crossing over from is crossing over from common sense to God's sense. Now, if you're a logical person like myself, you live in the world of common sense. That is me. I live in common sense. I can't tell you how many arguments I have started with my wife by saying, well, that's just common sense. Right? You don't say that to your wife, apparently. One of those things when I say, hey, babe, do you mind putting away the laundry? So she goes ahead, she puts away all the laundry, and then except for like this little bag of clean socks, because she doesn't want to go through and pair them on. I don't blame her because I don't want to do it either, which is why I asked if she could do it. So she's like, babe, I finished. And then I walk in and I'm like, yeah, but what about the socks? And she's like, no, but I put everything else, like, that's fine. I didn't know you meant that too. And I'm like, well, that's just common sense, right? Don't do that. It didn't go well for me. It will not go well for you. So just a tip, that one was free. Here we go. We are going to talk about somebody else who was walking in common sense. His name is Jonah. We're going to go back to like children's church today. I don't know if anybody here grew up in church. Jonah was like the coolest story in children's church because you got swallowed by a whale and like somehow survived. That's what every child in children's church drew all the pictures and stuff for it. There was always arts and crafts for it. There was always a story. So we're going to go back to our childhood, and we're going to talk about Jonah. It is only 4 chapters. Each chapter is only like 10 to 15 verses. I read through it in like 3 or 4 minutes, and that like took me a while because I had to keep going back over stuff. So if you want, take some time when we leave today and go over it because it is an incredible story. But Come with me real quick just to the start of Jonah. Jonah 1, verse 1 through 4. It says, "The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me." But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. All right, let's just pray real quick. God, I thank you for this morning, God. I thank you for this word that you have given, Lord. I pray that you just soften our hearts and our minds to receive it. Open my ears to be able to hear what you want me to say, God. Lord, as the fantasy playoffs begin to approach, I pray healing over all of my injured players, Lord, especially Jamar Chase right now, healing over his hip so I could get my 30-point-a-week player back in Jesus' name. And the church said, amen and amen. I thank you for all agreeing with my fantasy prayer because it's been painful. So Jonah here, as you can see, Jonah is instructed from the Lord to go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it. Now, Jonah decides, I'm going to run away and head somewhere else. I'm going to go the opposite direction. See, right off the bat, you don't necessarily find out why, but later on, you find out Jonah doesn't want to go to Nineveh because he doesn't want Nineveh to be saved. Nineveh is this sinful city. They're going completely against the word of the Lord. They're going completely against what God stands for. And Jonah is like, common sense tells me you get what you deserve. Nineveh doesn't deserve to be redeemed. They don't deserve to be restored. Now, if you don't know, Jonah is a prophet. He is a prophet. And he is telling the Lord, not actually telling him, but by his actions, running away, saying these people don't deserve to be restored. So I'm not going to go. Common sense says you get what you get. Right? Like you did this. You deserve it. You deserve the repercussions. So I am not going to try and save you from that. You deserve this. So he followed his common sense and was like, no, I'm going to go to Tarshish instead. Now, one thing that I noticed right off the bat, it gets right into Jonah and this direction from the Lord. A lot of other people in the Bible, you can see like they like argue with God sometimes. And like I do that sometimes, like I argue. Jonah didn't even bother arguing. He was like, oh, you want me to go here? I'm going to go here. I'm just going to do this. Almost as if he thought God wouldn't notice. Has anybody here completely disregarded what God said and thought that he wouldn't notice? Me. Hello. God is saying, go here. And I'm like, yes, God, send me. Send me there, God. Yes, right. If I make enough noise, you won't notice that I'm not listening. Right? So this is where Jonah is, this prophet. He leaves without saying a word, almost as if God doesn't notice. He followed his common sense instead of his God sense and hope, hey, God, you won't realize that I'm not following what you said, that I don't necessarily agree with you, maybe almost in hopes to convince him that his way is better, right? Like, oh, yeah, God said to do this. Cool. I'm going to go this way. And as there's no repercussions, I'm going to keep going. And maybe God will realize my plan was right all along. Maybe God will realize that my sense was right from the beginning, and he should have just listened to me. Right? He should have just followed what I said. And now what happens is Jonah, he gets on the boat, just like this says. He goes to the port that's going to go to Tarshish. He gets on this boat. They're in the middle of the sea, and the storm comes, and it is a fierce storm. Winds, waves, rain all over the place, and all these people are like, what's going on? Like they all have different gods. They're all praying to their own gods, their own people. And Jonah's like, yeah, this is probably my fault. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I think I have something to do with this. And they almost don't believe him. So they decide to cast lots, and it's whoever it falls on is the person at fall. Well, guess what? They cast their lots, and guess who it falls on? Thank you. Somebody's listening. It falls on Jonah, right? So here's Jonah. He's like, okay, I tried to run from God. I tried to show that my way is better. Clearly it's not. It's time for me to throw in the towel. And what Jonah does is Jonah tells them, just throw me off the boat. Throw me into the middle of the sea. I don't know about you. Not me. I don't care what's going on. My solution will never be to throw me into the open ocean. It's just not going to happen. There's way too many unknowns. I believe in chupacabra like you don't know, right? I am not playing these games. I know the second my feet don't touch the ground in the ocean, I could be 20 feet off of the beach, and I am spazzing. What is under there, like what is around me, I'm not about. And here's Jonah like, guys, I got the solution. Just throw me overboard. And what that tells me is Jonah was so against saving Nineveh, he was willing to sacrifice himself. He was so against the redemption of this city that Jonah was like, fine, kill me and they won't be saved. God sent me there. I don't want to go there. Just kill me. Throw me into the middle of the ocean. And that's what happens. So then it ends beautifully. He throws in the towel, right? He gives up. Like, at some point, we all have to give up running, right? Like, at some point, it gets tiring. I am not one who likes to run. I don't like to run. I have a friend who's here that will run like a 7-minute mile because he's crazy. Me, I run like a 35-minute mile, and that is too fast. I don't like running. But some of us, although we are against physical running, we will spiritually run. We will spiritually run and hope God doesn't notice, hope he stops chasing, right? Hope he stops running after us. Hopefully, God will get tired before we get tired. Some of us just need to stop running. It's inevitable that we're going to have to stop. It's inevitable that we're going to get tired. Eventually, we need to stop, and we need to allow ourselves to be seen. See, Jonah's running away without any notice, and he's like, man, God won't find me. God won't see me. We have to allow ourselves to be seen and get rid of our invisibility. Some of us have this invisible identity that's been built up over us for years and years since we've been groomed pretty much as a child, and we start applying that to the Lord. And then what happens is, if we don't get rid of our invisibility, what happens is when the Lord restores us and calls us back to him, we still feel invisible. I still feel like, God, I'm worshiping you, I'm praising you, I'm in this moment with you, but I still feel like you don't see me. If we're not careful, we'll carry that with us. So we have to let go of our invisibility. We have to allow ourselves to be seen, the good, the bad, the ugly, the powerful, the weak. We have to allow ourselves to be seen and allow God to deal with the rest. It's time to stop running. It's time to stop hiding. We have to throw ourselves overboard. Now, in chapter 2, pretty much Jonah, he gets swallowed up by this big fish. Some people say a whale. Some people say like a leviathan or something like that. It's a big fish, okay? It just says big fish. So he got swallowed by this big fish, and he spends 3 days and 3 nights in this fish. He had a lot of time to think and ponder and wonder. And one of the things that stood out to me is he finally has this like real, okay, fine, I guess I have to go to Nineveh, like it is what it is. But he never necessarily like admits like, hey, God, I messed up, my bad. All he does is be like, God, thank you for keeping an eye on me. His entire prayer is, you never left me. You never abandoned me. When I tried to be invisible, you never stopped seeing me. He has this moment with the Lord in the belly of the fish. I don't know if you've ever been to like a fish market or just on a fishing boat. It stinks. This man spent 3 days and 3 nights inside of a fish. It stunk, and all he could think about was, Lord, you never left me. I would have rather been in the middle of the ocean than inside the fish. But he said, you never abandoned me. It doesn't matter what the storm that I dealt with was, that storm that you threw around me, that's okay. You never left me. When I got tossed overboard, you never left me. When I rejected you, when I rejected what you wanted, when I rejected what you called over my life, you still never left me. And the entire focus in chapter 2 is not, God, I'm sorry, I messed up. It's, God, thank you. Thank you for never leaving me. Thank you for never abandoning me. And Jonah even brings up all the stuff that he did. He brought up hey, I tried to run from you. I tried to ignore you. Thank you for still caring for me. Thank you for still loving me. Thank you for still having your hand over my life. And now in chapter 3, pretty much chapter 2 ends with him being asked to be freed from this fish, and the fish literally throws him up and vomits him onto dry land. I'm sorry for the graphic image, but that's what happened. He threw him up onto dry land and again tells Jonah, you need to go to Nineveh and prophesy to them. So what Jonah does, he does not want to go. He's made this very clear. It is a 3-day walk within Nineveh. So it takes 3 days for him to walk throughout the entire city. And this is all he says. He says, 40 more days and Nineveh will be overthrown. That is all he says. He did not have an amazing message prepared. He did not have an amazing worship team. He did not have Pastor George's communication. Like, he didn't even want to be there, right? He didn't prepare. He didn't spend time with the Lord to hear what the Lord wants to say. No, he just went, God, this is what you said to do. All right, cool. Hey, 40 days, you're going to be overthrown. All right, peace out. And walk this way. And what happened was, Nineveh, they fell to their knees as a city and repented before the Lord. And I was like, God, you are the true God. We want to live for you. We want to burn for you. We want to love you. We want to be with you. Like, all it took, Jonah's attitude didn't change. His perspective didn't change. None of that. All that changed was his yes. He said, all right, this is what you want. I guess I'll do it. I'm going to give you the bare minimum. And look at what God did with the bare minimum. Imagine what the Lord can do with your bare minimum. And now, think about what he could do with your all. I've been seeing change in my life and change around me. I saw it for years by giving God the bare minimum. And it was incredible. All of a sudden, this perspective shifts. Hey, man, God's been doing this with my 1%. Imagine if I gave him 100. What would happen? God changed this entire city. He had a plan for this city. Jonah, I didn't need your agreement. I didn't need your help. All I needed was your yes. I didn't need you to agree with what I wanted to do. I didn't need you to see the reason behind why I wanted you to do it. All I needed was you to do what I asked you to do. I just asked you to go to Nineveh, say what you need to say, and go for it. So Jonah went, he did what he needed to do, and he did it mad. He was still mad about it. Listen, sometimes you're going to have to do what the Lord wants you to do while you're still mad about it. The Lord tells us to do something, and I know for me, a lot of times I've been like, I'm just not feeling it. I am going to wait until I feel the peace of the Lord about it. And God's like, I didn't ask you to do that. I just asked you to do it. Just go, right? So here's Jonah. Jonah's not waiting for this peace because he knows, he's like, I'm stuck in my common sense. I'm stuck in my common sense, and I'm mad about this, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyway. Sometimes we have to take that step of faith and go ahead and do it while we're irritated, do it while we're frustrated, do it while we don't get it. We may not understand the reason, but we still need to push forward and just do it. God is calling us to some of the people at work, calling us to some of the people outside, and No, man, they just really irritated me. My boss didn't give me the raise that I thought that I was supposed to get. My boss didn't approve my days off. So let me wait until I'm a little bit more calm, because hood mic about to come out. They don't know where I'm from. Like, you know what I'm saying? But is that not reality? Some of us are like, yo, man, like, y'all don't know me from 10 years ago. Y'all don't know me from Thursday. And God's like, no, I do know you. Just do it and I'll handle the rest. Maybe what I'm asking you to do is not for you. Right? Common sense is, and we get raised this way, that everything that we do needs to benefit us. But maybe what God is asking you to do is not for your benefit. Maybe what he's asking you to do, while kicking and screaming and being all whiny about it, maybe what he's asking you to do is for the other person's benefit and their blessing. Maybe what God is asking me to do, I don't necessarily want to do, but Juju needs. Right? And some of us get so stuck in our common sense in what's going to benefit us, what's going to elevate us, that we never take the step forward. We never do what the Lord is asking us to do because we don't see how it benefits us. We don't see how it makes sense to us. And God is saying, I never asked for things to make sense to you. I never asked for you to understand all that I'm doing. All I asked you to do is do it. And I feel for myself, I have been so stuck in common sense ways, in what benefits me, what's comforting to me, what doesn't take me out of my comfort zone, what is, like if I feel like staying home and kicking my feet up on the couch, I don't feel like going into the Word right now, like I'm kind of tired. And God is like, well, that's cool. Maybe going into the Word this week is not so that you could be built up, but it's so that you could read something that's going to build somebody else up. I was talking with one of my friends like a couple months ago, and I was thinking about our faith being built up and why it is important to pray for other people. And we were kind of having like a back and forth, and I think what I kind of remember like what came to me, but it was one of these things of like, I pray for other people because it builds my faith. That way, even if God is not necessarily answering prayer for myself, I can see he's answering somebody else's prayer, and my faith is being built up anyway. So if I'm asking God for more money, I'm asking God for more money.